Be honest, how often have you caught yourself looking lovingly at your phone only to realize you're getting completely wrapped up in somebody else's life? Maybe they just went on the most amazing trip, or maybe they just had a beautiful surprise engagement, or maybe they're just showing a very productive Sunday reset and it makes you think, wow, I can barely even get to the gym after work, and my inbox has completely taken a hold of my life. I would bet that most of us are spending way more time than we realize living inside of other people's lives. We can call it cute things like romanticizing other people's lives, but at the end of the day, it's really not a behavior that makes us feel very good. I think we all logically know that nobody's life is perfect and that social media and content and everything we're seeing on the internet for the most part is a highlight reel. And yet, it's almost like we can't help ourselves from still buying into the fact that other people have it all together, everybody has everything perfect, and we're the ones that are a mess. That's why I chose romanticizing other people's lives for today's topic for inner systems. I'm going to talk about why we do this. There's actually some psychological links to this and biological things that once you're aware of, it kind of helps you, I guess, forgive yourself and like take the pressure off. And then we'll get into what we can do to reconnect with our own lives and our own goals so that we feel satisfaction and joy with what we are doing and we are experiencing. As usual, if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much for being here. If you enjoy this kind of chatty type of video, be sure to hit subscribe. And then if you're looking for an audio only experience, I think you can do that on YouTube because I have this on here as a podcast, but you can also find this on Spotify. And I'm working on getting it on Apple Podcasts as well. So it might be there if it's in the description. Okay, I have a lot of notes to get through, a lot of thoughts that I have put together for this episode. So we're going to dive right in. So why do we romanticize other people's lives? The simplest description of what we're feeling when we're romanticizing someone else's life is envy. And the actual definition of envy is a painful or resentful emotion that occurs when you desire another person's possessions, qualities, achievements, or advantages. It stems from social comparison and involves wishing you had what they have, or sometimes even wishing that they lacked it to level the playing field. But romanticizing someone's life goes a little further than basic envy. We're almost putting people on a pedestal more than wishing they didn't have those things. So it goes further into comparison and self-doubt than envy alone. Beyond just wanting people's stuff or lifestyle, we want the feeling that we imagine other people are having. So for example, if you see someone get engaged, part of you might be like, wow, that would be such a beautiful way to get engaged. I love that setting. I love her ring, whatever. But what you might be feeling if you dive a little deeper is that you would want that feeling of security and that feeling of having somebody love you in that way and feel so sure about someone. If you're thinking about trips that you're seeing and beautiful vacations, of course, we all want to go on beautiful vacations, but it might be more about that sense of freedom you're assuming that person has, an adventure and even financial independence to be able to do that type of trip. And when you're looking at people's apartments and you're thinking like, wow, they have such a beautiful space. Like, I wish my space was like that. Do you actually want that furniture and that exact location? I mean, you really don't know what their neighbors are like, what their experience is like, what the traffic is like. You have no idea. Most likely you're picturing that their space is like this peaceful, tranquil oasis and that they're able to just relax and enjoy themselves there. And you want that feeling too. When we romanticize, we fill in the blanks and write our own story. Our minds get carried away thinking about how happy other people are, how effortless their relationships are, and how confident they must feel. But logically, we all know that what we're seeing is a highlight reel. We're seeing personal branding. We're seeing projections. Sometimes people are unhappy, so they post more. I've been guilty of that. Sometimes that's the moment where you want that little hit of getting some attention the most, right? And people have curated identities. As someone who works in marketing, I can tell you that the presentation is truly never the full picture. Of course, our brains aren't going to insert feelings like anxiety, jealousy, self consciousness, or sadness into the perfect stories we're writing. So you might see that vacation and you're only assuming they're having this beautiful, amazing time. But maybe that person really struggled with the trip. Maybe they were really anxious about going somewhere new. Maybe they had an injury they were dealing with that you can't see, or maybe something else happened, like they got in a fight with their partner on that trip. You really don't know, but our brains never create those stories. We always create these picture perfect, amazing stories. But we live on planet Earth. We know that's not how life goes. So it can really be such a trip. Over time, we see other people's lives as perfect and ours as imperfect, emotion driven, too human. And we think everybody else has somehow like found a way to surpass this. And that really couldn't be further from the truth. When we think about it in those ways, it feels logical to be like, right, yeah, why am I doing this? But there are actually several reasons why we do it. For one, we are constantly exposed to things we wouldn't have been historically. So because of social media, we are exposed to different and unattainable lifestyles, or seemingly unattainable. I like to think you can make things happen, but you truly can't do it all. So you can't live every lifestyle that you see, but you're going to see it. You're going to see constantly changing beauty standards, displays of wealth beyond what you could ever have imagined otherwise, different levels of organization and productivity. This can be an interesting one because I do believe productivity content and content like my habits video, those can be kind of helpful for you. And the intention is to listen to them and take away some notes and see what will help you. But when you start following the like very extreme productivity and organization content, it can make you feel like you don't have your life together. So that can create a whole thing. We're also seeing other people's relationships in ways that we really never have before. We're seeing like the perfect photos all the time, but you really don't know anything about their partner. Constant travel, wellness culture, seemingly perfect friend circles is a big one. You'll see the friends that are really good at making content together, and it makes it feel like their friendships can be more real than yours, or that they have a bigger friend circle than you. But most of those people, if you talk to them, they're normal. We'll also see endless fashion inspiration, which can obviously make you dissatisfied with what you own, and so much more. We were never meant to be able to handle comparing ourselves to dozens, if not hundreds of people every day. And yet, for most of us, it's just become background noise. We've been living this way since we were children or teenagers. I remember that moment when I was in middle school and the first sort of social media platform came out. I can't remember what it was even called now because it wasn't MySpace, it was something else. And all of the classmates, everybody jumped on it. And it was so interesting how quickly who was popular and who had like social standing changed in that classroom. And basically life has been that way ever since. Social media has completely changed the comparison game. Before that, me and my peers would like loosely compare each other, but it wasn't so obvious. And it was more about like who you'd end up being friends with and hanging out with. And after that happened, once we got this like social media introduced to our group, it just completely changed. And it was about like, who's the best graphic designer, who can like design something beautiful, who can take the best photos, which of the girls are going to get together on the weekend and do like a photo shoot. And the numbers started to speak more than people's personalities. That said, though, comparison is natural for us, and that's why, even pre-social media, we did compare ourselves. We are biologically wired for social evaluation. It helps us find our place in a group, understand our abilities, and seek motivation for personal growth. So if you think back in the day to like our ancestors, you would be comparing the people around you because that would help you survive. You were living and working in groups, and you needed to know like who was good at going out and hunting, who could get the food, and you needed to figure out what you could do in comparison to everyone else to validate and secure your space in that group. These days, we're comparing ourselves to like the entire world, so how could that possibly be helpful? But there is more to it than just this biological level of comparison. There is a psychological level as well. There is a theory called the social comparison theory, and it's by a psychologist called Leon Festinger. And it introduces the idea that humans lack objective standards to evaluate our own abilities and opinions. So we look at other people around us to define our success and worth. So Basically, we cannot objectively look at what we are accomplishing and what we are doing, which is made even worse if you're someone who then also is pressuring yourself to be an incredibly high achiever or perfect person. But you are able to evaluate the people around you a little more clearly. So we're already starting at this completely unfair space when we even begin comparing, and then we're biologically driven to compare. So once you understand those things, you're able to recognize that, okay, it is normal for me to compare. It's not a behavior you need to completely eliminate, but it is something that you need to recognize and bring to a more neutral and more controlled place than, like I said, comparing yourself to the entire world. From a psychological and biological perspective, we tend to compare ourselves at first in an attempt to motivate ourselves. But because we're exposed to so many people and so many lifestyles nowadays, we can instead fall into the trap of experiencing envy. And then that can turn into a deep dissatisfaction with our own lives over time. And that can even start to contribute to things like negative self-talk and poor self-image. Simply put, we just weren't meant to be exposed to so much. Instead of just seeing what our immediate friends and family are up to, we're seeing dozens of people's lives in a short time, and each post subconsciously makes us wonder if we are enough. So let's take that a little further. Think about what you're actually doing when you compare your life to someone else's. You're comparing your behind the scenes to someone's highlight reel. It's a completely unfair place to even start from, and we can convince ourselves that we should all have huge friend circles, our closet and our clothing and our possessions aren't good enough, our apartment has too many problems, everyone has found their person but us, our bodies are flawed, we aren't achieving enough, our design aesthetic is wrong and we decorated wrong and we need to completely change our homes, and so on and so on. So it's good to be aware of why we're doing this type of romanticizing and comparing to other people, but it's also important to think about what kind of harm this is causing for yourself. When you focus so much on other people's lives, it can actually be a very powerful way to dissociate from your own life and your own problems. It basically allows you to numb out and spend your time, like I said at the start of this video, it allows you to spend that time inside of someone else's life instead of your own. But this kind of numbing out doesn't just help us avoid the hard stuff. We also lose focus from our own progress, how we feel day to day. If you're always dissociating and looking at other people's lives and kind of thinking about other people's emotions and experiences, are you losing track of how you feel? And you can lose track of your daily routines and rituals that are so helpful in navigating your life. It can be really hard to build a life you genuinely love when you're constantly mentally trying on everyone else's. This can create identity confusion where you start to lose a clear image of who you are. Do you actually like things like strawberry matcha, waking up early and writing in journals? Or are you someone who just wants a strong martini and to sleep in on the weekend? Do you actually want to be married and have this like huge wedding that you're seeing? Or do you just feel like you need to do that because everybody else in your peer group is? The more we romanticize and compare, the more likely we are to constantly change our own goals as well. So do you actually want that job, that promotion, that leadership opportunity, or do you feel like you need to do that because that's like what everybody else is doing? Have you lost touch with your own preferences? Most of us are very fortunate to have a lot of life paths in front of us and a lot of opportunity. It really is a beautiful part of this point in time that we live in that you can look at some of these things people are posting and you can achieve them too. But don't let that push you into analysis paralysis to the point that you forget to actually make moves in your own life. You don't want to get to the point where you start thinking that your own wants and goals and dreams aren't enough. So let's talk about reconnecting with your own life. So the first thing you want to understand is that you're not alone in getting swept up in other people's lives. Our biology wires us to compare, and it's meant to act as a source of information for us. Envy can actually be a bit of a productive way to review your own life if you're able to not get swept up in it. So for example, say you're admiring somebody's fashion content online and you catch yourself thinking like, oh, I wish I had their closet and I wish I had that. I wish I could make this video. Is it really about the clothes, or would you feel pretty satisfied developing your own style and your own taste and getting to express yourself? Do you maybe just want to feel more put together and put a bit more effort into your appearance, or is it really about the exact shirt that person was wearing. It kind of depends, right? Like if you're a fashion girly, you might be really just about the item. But if you're looking at this romanticized lens and you're seeing people posting a type of content and you're like, wow, I wish I could do that, take it a step deeper and think about what is it about this content that I wish I could experience. Another example would be things like watching Sunday resets and feeling like everybody's life is so productive but yours. Meanwhile, like you're watching it in your pajamas, eating snacks on the couch. You might feel a lot better if you incorporate some habits into your weekly routine that make you feel like the basics are covered. So things like a cleaning schedule, taking some time every week to look at your finances, making a plan for your workouts. That way you'll know that you're actually doing all these things as well, and you won't just look at that content as so aspirational. It can be more inspirational. And it might also be a flag if you're having trouble letting yourself relax and you're idealizing this content from other people so much that you could be experiencing some burnout. And if you guys would like, that's something I could chat about another time. Comparison in small doses can signal these insights to us, but if you keep operating on social media with no control, it's likely to turn negative. The type of escapism we get online is really the ultimate path to just dissociate from our own lives. I've had points in my own life where I've fallen into romanticizing in an unhealthy way, and it got to points where social media would convince me that not a single area of my life was correct. And after taking a bit of a step back and taking more time like away from social media and just to reflect, I realized like there were some things that were calling to me from what I was seeing. My closet was completely overrun with clothes that either didn't fit me or didn't suit me. And I was watching so much fashion content and wondering why I couldn't like look that same way or feel that same way. And once I was able to narrow down my closet, when I get dressed now, like I'm happy with my outfits. I feel really good about them, and kind of so on and so on with some of the other things I talked about in that habits video that is a couple episodes back on this channel. Basically, we aren't just meant to optimize ourselves forever. There is a level of healthy routine and ritual and motivation and confidence to look into, but you're not meant to look at yourself as a to-do list or a DIY project all the time. You are also allowed to enjoy your life as it is now. So if we make this more practical, the best thing you can do to obviously spend less time romanticizing other people's lives is scrolling less. So depending on your device, you can actually go in and set time and screen limits for certain apps. I find that having a plan for my free time helps me more than anything like that, because I do like to feel like I'm the one controlling my experience, but this would be totally different for everyone. For me, that looks like having some non-negotiable routines and habits that I do, and also making sure that I'm baking time in to have fun, see friends, take fitness classes when I can, that sort of thing. When your life is more enjoyable, it is a lot less tempting to pick up your phone and start dreaming about that like Bora Bora trip you're seeing somebody on. When you are actually online, something productive you can do is mute the accounts that are making you feel some type of way about your own life, at least for a while, and until you've kind of done the work to feel more satisfied with your experience. There are so many beautiful accounts on Instagram and TikTok and Pinterest, and while they are wonderful, they are also plentiful. And so muting the ones or unfollowing the people that you are noticing you feel worse after looking at, and curating your feed a bit more around like some interests you have and some hobbies and things that are a little more productive for you might help you here. You want to get out of having a consumer mindset. So always feeling like you are consuming and you are sort of like the vessel that everything is going towards from the internet. Spend some time, obviously offline, do some hobbies or whatever, but you could also spend more time creating content as well if you're interested in that. And that will help you feel like you are part of that space as well. And it also kind of helps you see through the curtain and realize like, oh, I too can make my life look a certain way, even when that's maybe not how I'm feeling and what I'm actually experiencing. And then when you've given yourself a bit of space and time to kind of enjoy your life and have a little bit of that breathing room online, you'll be able to start to pay closer attention to how you're feeling when you start romanticizing somebody's life. So things to look for. If you're watching this person and there's something about them that you're really wanting to experience, try to think about what that experience is that you want to enjoy and take note of these. So, for example, it could be that you want financial freedom or at least financial stability. You might want romance in your life. Maybe you want to improve your confidence, etc., etc. And then you can turn those things into goals. So, for example, maybe you're wanting that like stability, closeness, romance, and you're seeing those things. Maybe what you need to do is nurture your friendships and make some plans to spend more time with those people. If you're really leaning into like that financial side and you're wanting that, then it's probably time to like learn a bit more about personal finance and maybe even talk to your boss or manager about what your role looks like at your current job. If you're seeing a lot of things that are making you want excitement and new experiences, then maybe it is time to book a trip and maybe even a solo trip to really fully live that experience. In general, when you're creating these goals and you're thinking about what this life is, that you feel like you're in some way missing, think about if you could never post about that online and if you could never tell anybody about it who isn't part of it. So say you're like, I really want to be like this amazing runner. Everybody online is running marathons. Like, why can't I do that? I want to do that. Imagine if you did it and you could never post about it, never tell anybody about it, and you would just like go do marathons once in a while on the weekend. Is it still something you want to do? If you're seeing people online post about these like beautiful trips they go on and you went on that trip and you could never like talk about it or share about it, but you got to experience it, would you still want to do it? I find that's like a great compass for just realizing what do you actually want and what have you kind of been tricked to think that you need validation for. It can be a really fun part of having a hobby or an experience to share a bit of it online. And I have some hobbies that I'll share a bit online, and then I have some that I don't share anything about online. And at the end of the day, they bring me joy in similar ways. But if you're only wanting to do things to share them and to make other people see that your life is perfect and so on, then it is coming from the wrong motivation. And then my last tip to stop romanticizing other people's lives is to start acknowledging your own growth, wins, and potential. Write a list of your favorite qualities about yourself. That might be something that helps you just remember, like, I too have these qualities and can have these feelings that I'm wanting. Remember that your life has a highlight reel, and you'd probably be surprised how many people think that your life is perfect too. And acknowledge the wins you're having. I always recommend a glimmers list where you just put a little note in there on your phone anytime something good happens or you're feeling really positive about something or you had like a great interaction with somebody. It can just be a meaningful way to look back and realize that like your life has these exciting, beautiful, positive moments as well. As someone who has posted on social media for pretty much my entire life, I can tell you that in some of my least happy relationships and hardest times, I would have people coming to me and being surprised to hear that I was going through anything at all, because what they're seeing is what I want to post. They're seeing me posting on YouTube. They're seeing me posting a fashion pic on Instagram or a travel, but they aren't seeing all those tough behind the scenes moments where, I'm dealing with a breakup or I'm struggling with pain or something else, mental health. There's all kinds of things that happen to all of us all the time. So just remember that, and remember that everybody is human and some people are just really good at curating their feed. As beautiful as someone else's life is, yours is the only one you'll ever get to truly experience. It's not bad to admire and hype up other people, but make sure that you are not abandoning yourself in the process. That is all I have for you for this week's Inner Systems. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it gives you something to think about. Please feel free to drop a comment if there is anything in this video that kind of gave you inspiration or something you're going to try, or if there is a topic you'd like me to dive into further. This is all a new style of content that I'm trying out, so I really appreciate your feedback and your thoughts, and I appreciate those of you who have talked to me on Instagram in the DMs and in real life about the content. So thank you so much for being here. I hope that you have a lovely day, and I will be back again soon. Okay, bye.